Yun! Kamusta naman dyan, mga kameta? I hope everyone is doing fine. Of course, sa isang banda, mukhang yung paeng was really devastating dun sa kanyang impact in parts of Mindanao, in parts of Luzon, among others. So nakikiramay po tayo dun sa mga biktima at saka pamilya ng mga biktima ng latest Typhoon Paeng. And no less than President Marcos himself recognized na that we definitely can do better, no, in terms of making sure na we avoid unnecessary suffering and make sure na wala tayong mga victims, no, or casualties, no, when it comes sa mga natural disasters na ganun, especially when predictable naman siya to a great degree. At the same time, of course, nakita natin sa Metro Manila area, the effect was not as big as perhaps some people feared, thank God. So that's quite fortunate. Although yung Marikina naman, by early evening pa lang ng Saturday, no, medyo lumampas na sa 15 meters. Umabot na siya to 17 meters by the time na ginawa natin yung meta natin over the last weekend. So, there are obviously some updates that we have to discuss. And of course, ayan na, naging issue na. Ohio gozaimasu. Nasa Hokkaido ba? Nasaan ba? Sa Japan ba? Sa Hokkaido ba? Ito na naman, nagte-trending na naman mga kameta. Itong issue ng ayan, nasaan ang presidente? Ayan, mga kameta, mga ka-YouTube, mga ka-Unity, mga ka-BBM, yan, mga na naman tayo. Pag-usapan natin yan, itong Hokkaido o Gozaimasu issue na yan, because, of course, sinasabi ng iba dyan, ayan, baka na naman kung saan naman yung presidente, hindi klaro kung andito pa siya, nasa north pa siya, and then iba-iba yung mga lumalabas na reports pagdating sa ating presidente. No less than the president himself, of course, made fun of the issue at kind of tried to ridicule the situation by saying, biniro din ni Pangulong Marcos na sinabi niya, welcome to Hokkaido. No, parang, of all places, di ba, Hokkaido, napaka-north yun, napaka-lamig doon ngayon siguro, di ba? I mean, of all places in Japan, di ba? At chinek ko kanina yung schedule na Grand Prix. Di ba, syempre, nag-Singapore siya ng other month. Diba? Chinek natin, hindi naman. Medyo few weeks ago pa yung Grand Prix ng Japan. So, just to put things into context, obviously, the whole Japan thing, gusto ko malaman saan galing itong Japan issue na yan. Bakit Japan ang inisip ng tao? Was there something in particular that was Japan? Was it because there was an announcement earlier that the president plans to go Japan as one of his first major visits? I don't know ano yung konteksto ng Japan yan. So mga kameta, kung may mas alam kayo sa akin, pakisabi na lang sa akin saan galing itong Hokkaido Japan issue na yan at why the president had to respond to it the way he did. Now, at the same time, of course, nakita din natin na may mga news dyan, ay mga reports dyan na nasa lawag si Pangulong Marcos and ayan, dumaan nga sa canteen or something like that. Oh, ito yung issue. I'm just, relaying the message here. Nasa lawag daw siya, hindi siya sa Japan, no? So, ito yung isang pinost dyan. Makita natin sa dulo yata yun si President Marcos Jr. President Marcos spotted in lawag amid talk of travel to Japan despite paeng rampage, no? So, yun ang mga nasaan ng presidente, biglang umabot ang issue dito na nasaan ang presidente natin, no? Ayan, so may reporter na si Kat Domingo, sabi na staff of Dawang Eatery in Lawag City confirms President Bongbong Marcos is in Ilocos or was in Ilocos this weekend. The president, his son Vincent, and his nephew, Ilocos Norte Governor Matthew Manotok, had lunch there nung Sunday, October 30, ayon sa eatery staff. So yun yung pinost nila. Now, of course, siguro kung mayroon tayong mga newspaper para makita natin yung date ng newspaper, yung mga proof of di ba? But, well, that's the claim na he was actually in Lawag, no? Sabi naman ng Office of Press Secretary, of course, yung officer in charge na si Cheloy Garafil, na the president is not in Japan, no? Ito ay dahil dun sa, after yung Zoom talk ni Pangulong Marcos with disaster officials, interagency discussions, yung iba sinasabi na sana dapat ang presidente ay physically presence sana doon sa Malacanang or doon sa headquarters of the Philippines Disaster Agency, no? At sinabi naman ng spokesman of National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, NDRRMC, na Marcos is not expected to fly to typhoon hit regions this weekend, talking of Saturday, Sunday, as the president doesn't want to disrupt the operation. So you had a situation whereby ang nangyari there is that the president is joining the rest of the cabinet and relevant agencies, yung interagency talk, via Zoom. At sinasabi ng tao na saan ba yung Zoom na yan. And then kanina nakita natin guys online, nagpo-post kung ano itong mga supporters yata ni Pangulong Duterte, na yung background naman niya is the same dun sa vlogger background niya. Talagang vlogger, diba? Ito daw yung background niya. Similar daw dun sa vlog niya earlier, 2 years ago actually, na similar daw yung background. Kasi tinatanong tao, nasaan ba ito? Is this background presidential? Is this background appropriate? And sync ba yan? Yan. Or tama ba yung ganito? Or tama na nasa over Zoom lang siya nag-join? Tama ba na hindi siya sa Malacanang? Etc. So, may mga nagdi-defend naman dyan na this shows the president. I mean, that's the sense I have. Kasi BBM Sara Unity yung pangalan ng Twitter, handle na yan. So, I suppose mga supporting si president yan saying na, he's in the Philippines and joining us from similar areas. Probably this is from Ilocos area, no? Again, and then yun may reports tayo na ganyan, no? Don't worry, I'll get into where I stand on this issue very soon, guys. I just wanted to cover yung mga iba't ibang angles ng issue na ito because obviously, naging issue yan. Now, in fairness naman to the president, now he seems to be taking a more hands-on approach. So, dito nakita natin itong mga latest pictures about the presidents kung saan pinapakita na President Marcos is conducting an aerial inspection of paeng hit areas sa Cavite. Kasi, unfortunately, yung Cavite areas, medyo malakas yung impact nung paeng, although not as much here in Manila. So, bibisitahin niya bago niya bibisitahin yung evacuation center dun sa probinsya, i-attend muna siya dun sa isang briefing with local chief executives, and then nag-aerial inspection siya. Of course, dun sa meeting niya with local chief executives, dun nagkaroon ng biro na Hokkaido. Ay, naku, talagang Pilipinas. Ang nagtataka ako bakit hindi sinama na naman si Lenny. Nasaan si Lenny? Baka may gano'n na naman yung mga pampaano ng kabila. Nasaan si Lenny naman? Sasabihin na, ano ni Lenny dyan, di ba? Presidente naman to eh. Tingnan natin kung malabas natin para makita natin yung iba talaga. Ay nako mga kameta. Ang mga kameta talaga, mga kameta. Ayaw pala nito ganito. 1 second Don't worry guys. Gusto ko makita kung malalabas natin ito. Play natin yung sinasabi ni Pangulong Marcos. Ito dito niya sinabi na nagbiro siya ng Hokkaido. Ayan. Tapos natin yan. May sounds pa. Ayan. Narinig niyo ba?
Thank you. Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Hokkaido.
Ayan, gumawa na siya ng biro. Ay nako, siguro kung kabila yan.
Thank you. Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Narinig niyo ba mga kameta?
Welcome to Hokkaido.
Yan. Siyempre, siguro pag sila Lenny nagsabi yan yung kabila, gagawin ng issue din ng kabila yan. Sasabihin nila, bakit nagbibiro ka sa gitna ng ganitong pandemya or problema, no?
Hokkaido.
Ayan, no? Si Pangulong Marcos mismo ay nagbibiro dito to dispel itong mga accusations na nasa Japan siya, no?
Thank you.
Welcome to Hokkaido.
Medyo nag-lag yung... Ayan tayo.
Thank you. Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ayan, okay. Ay nako. Sige, ano bang take natin dyan? Obviously, as you guys may know, medyo may big events din nangyari today. Kaya nga message about that. Of course, ito yung nangyari sa Brazil, no? And don't worry, kasi ayoko magsama-sama yung mga topics na all-in-one na hindi tayo maging overwhelmed. Alam ko, pagod na rin kayo. And I'm also tired. I don't want to do a full lecture on Brazil right after this. So, siguro we'll give a preview on that and then bukas mas in detail na lang natin i-discuss yung nangyari situation in Brazil. Of course, as you may know, kaninang umaga nagkaroon tayo ng update dun sa situation sa Brazil. Don't worry, I'll get back to itong nasaan ang presidente issue very quickly. But I want to say, nasaan yung headspace natin, no? Yung headspace po natin ay andito. So, yung post ni President Lula da Silva, na nanalo ang demokrasya. Nanalo yung kandidato ng demokrasya, no? At of course, ang natalo dito, yung parang version nila ni Trump, or some would say tatay, no? Na si Jair Bolsonaro. But the race was very, very close, no? If I'm not mistaken, 77 years old na yan si Lula, no? So, so actually Lula had to run 3 times bago naging presidente. And then this is the 3rd time also that he has won the elections for presidency. So quite unprecedented yan. We haven't seen many people coming out of retirement, and not only retirement, coming out of jail literally, no? On, some would say, trumped-up charges. At least the Supreme Court of Brazil struck down yung corruption charges against Lula. He came out last year, and since then he has been going strong, and he was able to defeat Jair Bolsonaro. We'll discuss that more, especially tomorrow, kasi may article po tayo about lessons from Brazil elections, especially for the Philippines, no? Pag-usapan natin yung issue ng disinformation in Brazil, yung issue ng inequality, yung issue ng violence, political dynasties, or trapa politics. But we have to also understand why they're making it, why the progressive liberal forces are successful in Brazil, why they're successful in Latin America but not in the Philippines. We also have to understand that. So we have to look at those elements, mga kameta. No? So babalikan ko tong issue na ito. So we'll have more in-depth discussion of what's happening in Brazil. And remember guys, what's happening in Brazil is very, very important because yung Amazon forests, no, ay nandun sa Brazil. This is the so-called lungs of the earth. Yung si Jair Bolsonaro at kanyang mga supporters, ang gusto nila is, hayaan nila dun sa mga trapong mga caudillo to just deforest the area, turn it to ranches, and turn it into cash crop areas, and etc. So, laki ng problema ng panahon ni Bolsonaro. So, the fear was, if Bolsonaro were to win another elections, not only would that threaten democracy, or liberal democracy for that matter, but it would also threaten Amazon and by extension, Earth, no? Kaya nga yung mga big celebrities all around the world were endorsing Lula, and in this time, it kind of worked, but not as well as many expected, because the race was very, very close, 51 to 49 barely. No, it's like super close. So the reason why I want to also wait siguro until tomorrow to give more updates on this is because wala pa yata tayong concession speech from Bolsonaro, and Bolsonaro, a la Trump, has threatened for a long time to question the result of elections, accusing the Electoral Commission and the opposition of running fraudster schemes, no? So, meron tayong ganitong problema ngayon. So, bantayan natin at update natin yan, mga kameta, anong situation sa Brazil. So, because there are fears that things could get a little bit ugly, if not more than a little bit ugly, if Bolsonaro goes all the way out, or some of his more overzealous supporters go all the way out and challenge the election results, especially because dahil sobrang close yung fight, no? Unlike yung fight sa Colombia, Peru, and Chile, no, where the margins were much more decisive. Now, so babalikan natin yan bukas, guys. May article din tayo sa Philippine Daily Inquirer. Pakibasa yan, yung article natin tomorrow, every Tuesday. God willing. So check those ones para you'll see naman in written format paano ko na-explain yung mga issue na yan. And so that you also can get the details. Don't worry, we'll still have an in-detail discussion of nangyari dito sa Brazil. I'll go to key elements, indicators, and lessons for the Philippines. So I'm not going to talk about Brazil for the sake of Brazil. I'm going to talk about Brazil because it has a relevance to what's happening here in the Philippines. No, very much. And ito po ay napaka-connected dun sa sinasabi natin na if the Philippines wants to move in the right direction, we have to learn lessons from the countries that are comparable to us. And sa aking palagay, mas comparable tayo sa Latin America than, let's say, Singapore, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, or some of our Muslim neighbors, or definitely compared to US or some developed countries. So I think Latin America is the most apple-to-apple situation we can talk about as far as comparative political analysis is concerned. So babalikan natin yan. We'll have more discussion about it. Now, let's go back again dito sa issue na yung nasa ng presidente dito sa Pilipinas, no? Okay, ganito na lang. Ganito na lang mga kameta. Ganito na lang na. Nagigets ko itong issue na kailangan talaga natin ng hands-on leaders, no? Nagigets ko na yan. At the same time, well, let's not forget that the president is in charge of the whole country, and the president is the commander in chief. So when a major crisis happens, he has to be also ready for other crises, and he has to be able to make decisions on multiple crises at the same time. Kaya nga, the idea that the president has to be hands-on 100% all the time for every natural disaster that's coming, it has its own merit. But at the same time, kaya nga meron tayong cabinet members. Kaya nga tayo may DSWD. Kaya nga nandyan si Sir Erwin Tulfo. Kaya nga nandyan yung DLG Secretary. Kaya nga nandyan yung iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno. Kaya nga may interagency coordination tayo. So as much as I understand that dun sa mga opposition, a lot of them are angry na a lot of what went wrong or supposedly went wrong with Hayan, biniblame lahat kay Aquino, kay President Aquino, etc. And then of course, binabawi yan kay Pangulong Duterte later on, and then ngayon naman kay Marcos. I mean, I get the whole nasaan ang Pangulo, hashtag nasaan ang Pangulo, where this is coming from. And there's a lot of frustrations on both sides. One side is blaming the liberals for everything that went wrong and keeps on harping on the Hayan tragedy, yung Yolanda's tragedy, and how it was handled or mishandled by the government. At the same time naman, every time binabalik naman ito dun sa supporters ng kabila, kung ano-ano nangyayari, dinadamay pa si Lenny na hindi naman public official ngayon. Di ba? So, meron pang nasaan si Lenny na kalokohan na lumalabas the other month. No? Now, my point here is, yes, I think sa isang banda, kaya nga tayo may interagency task force. Kaya nga meron tayong mga iba't ibang cabinet members. At kaya nga, maganda rin now the president later on has an inspection of the area, make sure na the reconstruction process goes right. I'm all for that. And at the same time, of course, naintindihan ko rin na parang medyo strange na why the president was not there in Malacanang for the interagency briefing in person. Kasi iba pa rin yung in person kaysa over Zoom, di ba? Or ganon. So I see where are these criticisms coming from. Ako naman, ang concern ko lang dito is, marami akong concerns, but my big concern is the big picture, right? Ang concern ko is if we are expecting the president to be always 100% there for every natural disaster, predictable, unpredictable, whatever, we might fall into this voluntarist, political will, performativity politics, no? Kung saan the presidents or our leaders are much more focused on projecting, being hands-on, etc. during every incoming crisis para lang to dispel their critics and project leadership and all. But at the same time, we're forgetting that actually what we need to be able to effectively deal with different crises is having effective state institutions, evidence-based public policy, competent cabinet members, efficient interagency task force, and all the things that we need to do, structural things we need to do para ma-prepare yung ating bansa, yung geohazarding, urban planning, learning from best practices. So, by focusing on the president, I see the point there. My worry is that by too much politicizing the presence level of the president, we might not pay as much attention dun sa mga more long-term institutional structural changes na kailangan natin. Kasi katulad ng sinabi natin yung last weekend, guys, no? Yung previous weekend, ang Pilipinas po ay isa sa top 3 most vulnerable countries sa climate change. So unfortunately, itong problema with the incoming typhoons and extreme weather conditions ay hindi mawawala. If anything, it's gonna get worse and worse over the years and decades. And some studies suggest, that in many parts of the world, we could have multiple extreme weather conditions, coinciding, things that we have never seen before, So if you wanna understand where I'm coming from, I really suggest you guys read this book on Inhabitable Earth. If wala kayong time, at least read the reviews, or better, yung short essay by the author, si David Wells Wallace. No? It's really a good book. It really changed my perspective on so many things. Also, my perspective on what kind of leaders we need in the future. So, at least basahin niyo yung essay niya, sinulat ni nung author niya, doon sa New Yorker magazine. I think it's for free, so you can read it for free. At least the essay, because the essay is essentially it gives you a synopsis of the whole book. So this is the book, guys, the Uninhabitable Earth, and doon yun makikita talaga, guys. Doon yun talaga makita na if you're in a country like in the Philippines, you have to really prepare the country on the institutional level. Dapat urban planning, geohazard mapping, all of these risk mitigation mechanisms, adoption of new technologies, adoption of best, practices from all around the world. Dapat nandito sa atin sa Pilipinas. And as I always said, if you look at Japan, for a long time, magulo yung mga politics nila. You know, really, it's Koizumi and Abe who have been the long-lasting prime ministers in Japan. Other than that, paiba-iba. But even when paiba-iba yung prime ministers nila, 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, Japan was able to get through the triple disasters in 2011, the tsunami, the earthquake, the nuclear meltdown, partly because there was social capital and social trust, but also because the other state institutions were working. Now, obviously, there are controversies about the electricity sector and some bureaucratic issue in Fukushima. I interviewed the governor of Fukushima, former Governor Sato. So I'm aware of some of the internal problems in Japan. But the one reason in general why countries like Japan can get through many crises quite more effectively than a lot of countries like the Philippines perhaps is because even though magulo yung politics nila, their state institutions are effective. So they can deal with the crisis well, and the people, they may not be happy about the politicians in power, but they can trust the government, the different agencies of the government, the police, the armed forces, etc. No, so yun yung concern ko na by I mean, I see the point of making sure the president is there, but by over politicizing the issue of how much the president should be on top of an issue of a crisis, baka ma-underestimate natin itong mas more long-term preparations na kailangan na gawin natin, no? Because I believe that it's important na tayo mismo, constantly we put pressure on our leaders to invest in long-term solutions and long-term preparation. Hindi lang yung instantaneous, instant noodle style, or hindi lang performative lang para lang maipakita dun sa TV or during a crisis when everyone's paying attention. But you have to have a situation whereby you're preparing your country to deal with different kinds of crises, with different kind of natural disasters or extreme weather conditions, regardless of who's the president, or regardless of whether the president is in Hokkaido or in Lawag or Manila, etc. But of course, we want the president to be as hands-on as possible. But to expect the president to be hands-on 100% all the time, I don't know. I'm not sure that's the healthiest way to approach this issue, when in fact dapat ang mas focus natin is to encourage the presidents and leaders to invest in our institutional capacities and sa LGUs, different agencies of the government, to prepare us over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years. Dapat ganun ang thinking natin, di ba? Hindi masyadong voluntarist, hindi masyadong politicized, hindi lang masyadong personalistic approach lang. Right? Kaya nga may alter egos ang president. Kaya nga may different agencies tayo. But yes, at the very least, we're expecting the president not to having a vacation while there's a disaster, or the president at least try to be around to make the chain of command clear when you need a lot of coordination. So I see where all of these are coming from, guys. But yun lang gusto kong sabihin. Ayan na yung mga trolls natin dyan sa YouTube, among others. Maraming salamat for joining us and pushing up our engagement. Okay, napahaba yung discussion natin. So don't worry, guys. Babalikan natin itong issue ng Brazil. I'll talk about more Brazil. I'm thinking if we can do StreamYard para you guys can directly engage us, because I want to also hear your points of view. What do you think are the lessons from Brazil? Or are there any lessons that we can learn? What do you think are the similarities or differences? I hope sumali kayo. No? Last time, si Sir Michael Uyla yung medyo excited na mag-join. So sana if I go etong version na etong StreamYard version, sana sumali din kayo sa atin, di ba? Para magkaroon tayo ng parang town hall discussion style. Alright? So I really hope we can move forward in the right directions. Ayun tuloy, delete ko tuloy yung sarili ko. And let me say thank you in the meantime dun sa mga supporters natin. Nagbigay ng comments, suggestions. I really appreciate it. Hindi naman masyadong late ngayon, no? Ganitong oras. Sorry, talagang I have other works to deal with. So, minsan ito talagang earliest na pwede natin gawin. But try natin mas early tomorrow, and try natin mag-StreamYard para magkaroon tayo ng interactivity naman, mga kameta. Mga kameta. Alright? Yun lang naman eh. Yun lang naman. Okay. Alright, mag-thank you tayo dyan sa mga kameta natin. Ayan. Okay yung lighting natin, parang blushing style. Thank you tayo dyan. Sorry. And may kausap natin ibang vlogger friends natin kasi nag-arrange din tayo ng meetings natin. Yung iba kasi, di ba, na-cancel yung mga vlogs and all nung weekend. Kaya nga kasi dito sa concern natin sa nangyayari. Ay. Nagsabay-sabay na. Anyway, let me say thank you kay Mama Victoria Baltazar, among others, yung mga nagbigay ng support, kay Braf Pete as always, kay Noemi Tablare, yan. Thank you kay Angelu for joining us, kay Jen Francis Caganilia, thank you kay Sir Michael Lui as always, kay Ma'am Jocelyn Lumbera as always, thank you so much for being so supportive. Among others, thank you kay Eleanor Bangayan for joining us, kay Mira Chavez for supporting us, thank you so much, kay Ariel de Guzman, Tengren, kay Leo Leonara, kay Judge Irma Zita, kay Jonah Santos. Thank you very much. Thank you rin dito sa mga friends natin sa YouTube, among others na sumasali, especially yung mga nagtutroll sa atin because it pushes up our engagement. We always appreciate that. So thank you very much, guys, and thank God to see hopefully everyone is okay, and dun naman sa mga naapektuhan ng lugar, I hope we can send our support, morally, spiritually, financially, politically, in every way that we can, no? And good luck din sa ating gobyerno, good luck din sa ating mga officials in making sure na may long-term solutions tayo dito sa mga problema natin, including yung preparations natin and institutional, structural, literal yung structure ng mga buildings and cities, resilience pagdating sa mga natural disasters. Because as we discussed, this is just gonna get worse over time, not better. Dahil sa location of the Philippines, dahil sa topography natin, and dahil sa climate change. So on that note, thank you very much, guys, and talk to you soon. God bless. Thank you very much, guys. Wait lang. Hindi. Tawagin natin itong mga nandito. Sino yan? Wait lang Mga kameta. Ayan na yung si Raymar. Nagkakalat ka na naman dito. Ayan. Thank you. Ayan, kay Gambit Gambino. Ano naman ang dyan? Ayan. Ayan na naman tayo dyan. Kay Boots Valera. Yan, si Ma'am Jocelyn nandito rin. Ibang klase Multi-platform. Kay William Reyes. Ayan. Thank you for emphasizing issue ng bureaucratic competence. No? Kay Andrea Moore. Ayan. Kay Andrea. Alright. Tanong siya about Bolsonaro and the Amazon issue. Bukas na lang, God willing, we can have a more discussion of that. And yes, Raymar, Brazil used to be a colony in Portugal, and then they revolted against it and created their own Brazilian empire. But yeah, the colonial legacy is still there. Alright, salamat guys. Talk to you guys soon Pag-usapan pa natin itong Brazil, and hopefully we can do StreamYard. At sali naman kayo when I share my link. Go in na, huwag nang kayo mahiya. Alright, thank you very much.